And this transformer impedance is often expressed as a percentage of the load impedance. This is very, very interesting and important. Again, the typical values are 10% for power transformers and 5% for distribution transformers. We'll see why it is like this roughly. So when you say power transformers, we are typically talking about 5 MVA and above, right? So this is some important demarcation between these two categorization, which is also very, very important from practical aspects. So the power transformers are used for bulk power transmission and generation and all that. And distribution transformer is invariably used for the transformers which we see on the roadsides in cities for stepping down 11 kV to 415 volt, sometimes even to 240 volt. And today, distribution transformers are also used to integrate the renewable energy distributed generation, like your rooftop and small wind power generation back into the grid. So that's the time in use. And this distribution transformers have a lower impedance. The reason is the impedance as I was representing actually represents the voltage drop. So the distribution side, you want to keep the voltage drop to the minimum. We tackle it with a very low impedance. Whereas in the power transformers, you will see in the next few slides, though the impedance is very high, it actually helps. You will be surprised to know that higher impedance means the lower short circuit through fault current through the transformer. So this is very, very important aspect. And so we keep it little high and we compensate for this higher value by what we call as the tap changes on the transformer. So higher the impedance, typically the tap ranges are also higher, proportionately higher to compensate for the voltage changes. So we in a way compensate for that. So there's no major issue in the real power system. So in a way, I have a very quick calculation here. So here we have a grid system, back to the grid system, the transformer and all that. So the grid system is supposed to be infinite because the transformer ratings are small compared to the grid system. So let us ignore the impedance of the grid system. So in case somebody says that my transformer impedance is 10%, then if you have a fault on the secondary side, right? If you have a fault on the secondary side, the current through the transformer would be 10 times more. 1 by 10% is 10 times, right? So it is very simple. In other words, through a power transformer with 10% impedance, the maximum fault current that can flow through the transformer is about 10 times. So this is something I wanted to remember. It is not going to be 100 times the load current. It's not going to be half the load current. Typically, it's around 10 times. Similarly, in case of a distribution transformer, the through fault current through the transformer would be around 20 times. You know why? It is because the impedance is around 5%. So 1 by 5% gives you 20 times the rated current. The transformers also differ with respect to the way they are constructed. There are two basic constructions. One is core type and shell type. As you can see, the core type transformers, the windings are possibly on distributed on two limbs in a single phase transformer context. And in case of shell type, the windings are around one particular limb and the magnetic flux goes through the other two limbs here. And so it is more kind of a compact design. The copper is less in this, but here maybe the iron is less. So it's a compromise. There are some operational advantages and design advantages and disadvantages in each. But I would say most of the major power transformers, they are all core type, but possibly smaller and distribution types are all shell type. Some of the old power transformers used to be shell type, but I would say today, most of the major power transformers, we use core type. And you can see here, one simple thing here, three-phase transformer, where you have R-Y B link, there is no return magnetic core. Why? Because typically the three phases, the current or voltage or flux add up to zero under normal operating conditions. So there's no need for a return limb here for the magnetic flux to go through. At any one point, the flux produced by one particular phase gets returned in the other two phases. Whereas you see in the shell type, whether you have single phase or three phase, there is always a return core. So that makes it possibly more expensive for major power transformer designs. So this is another important element you may want to know. The other important thing we need to know about is the transformer polarity. What is polarity? There's another interesting element we need to understand. We all know that you have polarity for the batteries, right? You have a cell at home, 1.5 volt cell you buy from a shop. It is marked always with positive and negative, right? That is very clear. When it comes to the AC power system, we all know that the voltages and currents, they flow back and forth. Every second 50 times. That is the frequency in this country. It could be 60 hertz in some other country. They keep flowing back and forth. So what is the polarity? That is something very interesting question, right? Sometimes it is positive, sometimes it's negative. So what is polarity with respect to an AC winding? What is important here is that it is not absolute polarity, but it is about relative polarity between relative voltage between two separate windings in a transformer. That is where the polarity assumes importance. Let us say you have to understand this point, let us assume you have two batteries, 120 volt, positive and positive and negative are connected together like this, and you have connected a voltmeter. By basic Kirchhoff's voltage law, you would know that this voltage is zero, because if you go around the loop, this is plus 120 and minus 120, so the voltmeter reading is zero. Suppose we had reversed the polarity of one of the batteries. Now, if you go around this circuit, this is 120 plus 120 becomes 240 volt. So you will measure 240 volt across the voltmeter here. The same thing we try to do with the transformer winding. Here, again, we go to that 1 and 2 notation. Here, but the difference is this is the two ends of a winding. So we normally mark the two ends of the winding either as 1 or 2 or S1, S2, H1, X2, like that, depending on the voltage and other things. So here we have taken two windings in the same transformer, 120 volt winding, 24 volt winding. Naturally, the ratio of the transformer is 5. Now, this H1 and X1 are very, very important to mark on the transformer when you manufacture. What it means is that when you apply positive voltage to H1, that is half a cycle, when you apply H1 positive half a cycle for 10 milliseconds, the voltage that is produced at X1 is also positive. So this H1 and X1 in a way represent that they are in sync, right? So when you apply 120 volt positive H1, negative H2, you will generate 24 volt X1 positive and X2 negative. That is what polarity is all about. When you apply negative here, X1 will also go negative, nothing more, nothing less. So now, if you connected the voltmeter similar to the way we connected to the battery, instead of measuring a steady voltage or whatever here, the only difference here is that these two voltages between the primary and secondary would either add up or subtract depending on the polarity. So in this particular example, we have applied 120 volt positive at an instant, let us say. I mean, it's continuously varying, I recognize that. At any one point of time, let us assume that H1 is positive with respect to H2. That means X1 is positive with respect to X2. So when you go around this circuit, you will recognize that this voltage and this voltage are opposing each other within this circuit. So you end up having 96 volts. So now we understand. Suppose somebody reversed the two polarities here and connected the voltmeter the other way, you would recognize that this H1 is positive here, X2 is negative. So when you put positive, negative, negative, positive, they all add up to 140 volt, which is nothing but 120 to 24 volt. So this is an important thing we need to recognize and remember, that though transformers are alternating current devices, any AC machine for that matter, there is a thing called polarity, and polarity is about getting a particular voltage output corresponding to one winding with respect to another winding. So it is not about with respect to whether it is positive or negative, what this voltage is with respect to the other winding. So that is what polarity is all about in a transformer winding. Why this is important? It is very, very important in a three-phase system, because in a three-phase system, instead of positive or negative, we all know that the voltages and currents, for that matter, they swing with respect to each other at 120 degree electrical angle, or let's say in a 50 hertz system, it is 8.33 millisecond. In other words, if R phase goes positive 120 volt at a particular point, the Y phase voltage would also be the same value after 8.33 millisecond, and so on and so forth. So now, in a three-phase transformer, which is nothing but a combination of three transformers put together, we have a problem here. In the sense, these three windings can be connected either in what we call as delta, means this starting of the one winding can be connected to the beginning of the other, and so on and so forth, and form a loop, and we bring out three wires here called delta. Or alternatively, this is very simple to explain. R phase, Y phase, B phase, they remain as it is. There's a dot here. Sorry, there's a mistake here. R, Y, B, and the neutrals are all connected together, so that's called Y. So in any three-phase winding, I have a choice. It can be connected in star or delta. So technically, a three-phase transformer can be star, 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 delta, delta, star, delta, delta. So all these combinations are possible. Each combination has different application and usage in a real power system. As you all know, in the distribution level, typically in our systems and in our cities and industries, when you're drawing power from, let's say, the ESCOMs, let's say typically BESCOM or Tata Power, DDL in Delhi, the 11 kV side is typically connected in delta, and the load side is typically connected in star. And in case of a step-up transformer, delta is on the generator side, star is on the high voltage side. And we'll also talk about other types of transformers very shortly. Now, you might always also wonder, maybe when you started this electrical course, why this three-phase system, we always have √3 as face-to-face voltage. Let us say you have a 400 kV system, practicing engineer would say it's a 400 kV system. 400 kV is across phases. It is not between phase and neutral. The explanation could be this. I'm not saying this is the only explanation, but this could be one of the explanation I would normally explain to students. You know, when you talk about three-phase transformer, the total MVA is the sum of all the three individual phases, right? So the three-phase transformer is actually, because we have now talked about three transformers, 3 into VI, V into I is the normal formula I would like to use. But because of this √3 factor, the KV has already built in one √3 factor. When you say primary voltage, it is face-to-face voltage. So we need to put one more √3 here to account for the three factors. So √3 into phase to neutral into IP is the net MVA. So this is the typical formula. We are all aware that √3 VI is what we call as three-phase system MVA. Now look at the impedance. The impedance is typically the phase to neutral voltage by phase current, which is nothing but, as you can see, it comes to the voltage squared by VA. Or in other words, in practical world, we use this very simple thumb rule that the load impedance of any transformer is KV squared upon MVA. So this is a very, very simple thing we use. And moving further, I've given some simple examples of how power transformers are used, what are all the voltage levels, what are all the MVA. It's all massive. It needs maybe 100 truck to move a major power transformer from one location to the other. I don't have a picture to share, but you can always see. And it's a huge factory that we have across the world, various companies manufacturing these transformers. It's a very exciting field. And the distribution transformer factory can be very small. It's not a big deal. It's typically a medium scale industry in India. There are thousands of manufacturers manufacturing the distribution transformers. So here are some examples. So the power transformer would typically have the bushings and all you can see. And then there's also conservator, we'll talk about it. A distribution transformer is small in size, which is typically mounted on a board on the roadside. And I was mentioning about changing the tab based on the impedance. Here it is. And so here there are multiple tabs. We change the transformer ratio by changing the tabs here. And this is one important element in most of the power transformers. And it is also the weakest link. Maybe 50% of the transformers, they fail because of some problem with this mechanism here. And here is a nameplate where you have all the details of a transformer, but you would see that the most important things what you have represented here are the voltage levels and MVA or KVA in this case. Here is a nice picture of a transformer. So I'll just run through this list. So we have the tank, which is a big tank wherein it is oil filled. You need to keep the insulation level so that there is no flashover across two turns of the same winding or between the primary and the secondary or between the winding and the. So this is the most important insulating medium. Zinc cast and other kind of insulating material are also used. But in a major power transformer, this is the norm. So we have the tank, we have the high voltage bushing, low voltage bushing. This is the conservator wherein oil is filled and it is connected to the transformer oil and there's air on top. Why? Because when you have the transformer loaded, it gets heated up, or during temperature, atmospheric conditions, the oil expands because of temperature. So that has to be allowed to expand and contract without getting itself exposed to the atmosphere. The oil is one important element, and once it gets exposed to moisture, it loses its insulating property. So this is a very, very important thing to maintain isolation. And there's also what we call as a breather, which takes out the moisture in this air, which is trapped here, and that takes out the moisture in the oil. And then there are multiple things, including tap changer and bushing, current transformers, everything is shown in this picture. So this is a picture of a simple oil-filled transformer and a dry-type transformer. So you can see that there's no oil here. So it is very safe. Oil can catch fire, and so typically it is not used within a building. We don't use an oil-type transformer. So in case you need to put a transformer underneath your building, then typically dry-type transformers are used. Or in case of mines and other places, typically dry-types is used. And typically we have also protection. As I was mentioning, there is a current transformer, breaker, and they act in tandem together along with measuring the current and voltage in the transformer and trip it. So there are some important protections which I have listed: differential, overcurrent, book holes. What is book holes? I'll just step back here. So there's a device here, important device called book holes. What it does, when there is a fault within the transformer, it generates explosively sometimes the gas, because the arc generates so much of heat, it instantly vaporizes the oil around it. It produces gas. The gas rushes through the device here, which can immediately make a contact close. So it was invented by a guy called Buchholz in Germany long back. So it's called Buchholz protection. So in addition to measuring current voltage, Buchholz, and also we measure the winding and oil temperature in case of overload or some other reasons. We may be able to detect overload in the transformer, and pressure relief in case the pressure builds up beyond the breaking capacity of the transformer tank. Then also we could possibly trip the transformer before any major explosion occurs. So this is a typical protection device, which is nothing but what we call as today a numerical protection relay. It converts the incoming current and voltage into numerical numbers, and it processes the protection. So what is new today in the transformer field? We have what we call as digital transformer. It is not that it is totally digital. There are digital elements, like I would say, digitalization is one important element, and we put continuous monitoring so that we can decide the condition of the transformer. We can predict the life, and we can even predict whether there's going to be a failure, because transformers are very, very important for running a process plant, and we need to predict something failure prior to that happens. And we also have special robotics, and there are a lot of protection algorithms and all that they're all going on. And new fire resistant insulating material, ester oil is another new material. It's not very new, but there are a lot of developments that are taking place. Also, it is important to mention at this juncture that there are special transformers, HVDC, rectifier, inverters, fax applications. So there are a lot of important calculations and developments, R&D areas that are happening in the transformers. Operation maintenance, as I mentioned in the very beginning, we have about 50 years, but the people at field have to do quite a few periodic check and maintenance to make the transformer alive and kicking throughout its lifetime. It is typical to the way we maintain your car or bike or scooter. So there are very clear periodic maintenance schedules that have to be maintained. And who are all the important users in this country? In case you are from India, yes, you might be already familiar with these names. And some of the manufacturers, you know, all the important multinationals are already there for big power transformers, but there are very few. I'm sorry, I left out our Indian manufacturer, Crompton Greaves here. I'll add it later. There's an indigenous manufacturing company. But then when it comes to the smaller transformers, there are thousands, as I mentioned. So I'm not really attempted to diss all the smaller guys here. And before you decide to use a transformer, it is tested, right? So there are various standards and routine tests as well as type test. Type test is to design verification. So any new major power transformer has to be type tested. And there are internationally accredited organizations which do this type test in India and overseas. So without type test, the transformer, whatever you manufacture, is not accepted by a customer. And before you accept a transformer, maybe suppose you order 30 transformers, one transformer is type tested. So all the 30 have to be routine tested in the factory before you give clearance for it to be dispatched. So these are all some of the standards, including Indian standards and international standards, which are very, very important from coming to an agreement between a purchaser and a user, and also for a maintenance agency. And naturally, the type tests are pretty expensive. They would form a significant percentage of the transformer cost itself. So typically, we don't do type tests very often. Maybe once in a 5 year on a particular design is normally specified by a customer. This is a very important slide. Most of you might be wondering what you do in case you want to pursue a career on transformers. So you could be into design, I not really mentioned about operation maintenance here. That could be multiples of companies in utilities and other users. So I've not really talked about it much here, but very aspiring guys may possibly want to either design or research or development. So most of the manufacturing companies have a design wing, R&D wing, and most of the utilities have latest technology adaptation, and academic institutions also do a lot of research on institutions in case you want to pursue your interest in transformers. So when it comes to the positions, you have the marketing position, you have sales, of course, and then product management. So you want the profitability of your product. You are the bridge between market, what it needs, and the technology. You need to tell the internal design or R&D people. So that is another career path that you may want to choose, or business development, which is somewhat like not direct sales. You don't clinch a deal, but you make presentation and technical discussions with the customer before the customer specifies a particular product. And of course, consultant. I started my career in Tata Consulting Engineers long back. So consulting engineers, there are multiple paths available. But I would say, in general, when you are an electrical engineer, sky is the limit, and transformer is one important element. I don't say you should pursue a career only in transformer, but I would say whichever path you choose in electrical power system as a whole, the essential knowledge you must have is on transformers. Other things can follow.